Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports on a Sunday morning.
Goldschmidt swings and he hits a drive. He hits a slammer.
Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
Billikens win! Billikens win!
Once again, from the Stifel Financial Sports Studio, Tom Ackerman.
Welcome back to the show. John Mozeliak, the Cardinals President of Baseball Operations, joins us at 11:30. Good morning, Mo, and in Jupiter, Florida, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It felt so good to have baseball back. I watched the first inning with Chip Carey and Brad Thompson. Before that, I was in the kitchen listening to John Rooney call the first pitch because I wanted to hear the radio call. Back and forth we went between KMOX and Bally for a few hours, actually less than that, which I'll get into with you in just a minute. But I felt normal again. It's nice to have baseball back on the air.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Yeah, beautiful weather down here. It's been spectacular, and just to get it going is, I think, a welcome sign. I will say, like, the last 2 weeks to me went by super fast. I really feel like Ollie and his staff created a really efficient and productive camp. And, now to be playing games, it just feels like just yesterday we got here, but here we are. And, obviously we'll ramp up this week. And then we'll start to have some guys start heading out for the WBC by midweek. So rosters will look a little different, but I still think, the work we're able to get done right now and just sort of the overall vibe of camp has been really positive.
That's great to hear. I can't wait to get down there. I'll be down there late on March 5th and start my journey there for the next 3 weeks on March 6th. And like you mentioned, there will be some players that I will not see at that time. Tommy Edman, Lars Nootbaar are going to be traveling in the World Baseball Classic, and some others will be heading out. But until then, you've been able to see them. What did you think of yesterday? A 3-2 loss to the Nationals, but you got to see a lot of your big names.
No, it was, again, just good that guys were out there. Good news everybody came out of it feeling good. And, I don't, obviously you'd prefer to win a game than lose a game, but, these are really just exhibition games, and they're really just games to get really players' feet under them. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But, overall, it's the guys feel really good about where they are. I think, you're going to see a lot of Nolan and Goldie this week because they're trying to ramp up for the WBC. So, by the time you're down here in a week, there'll be a few faces around, but yes, this roster will look a little bit different.
Yep. Today you're going to start Jordan Walker out in left field. That should be a lot of fun to see him. He got a little bit of action yesterday. Now he gets a start, as you'll see a lot of Jordan Walker throughout this Grapefruit League, won't you?
Yeah, I would think so. Obviously we have a young group of talented players that are going to get a lot more exposure this year for a variety of reasons, and one being the WBC. But, I love that. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're a prospect hawk, there's going to be a lot of things to watch down here, and should make for a very fun camp.
Yeah, it'll be fun. The names in here, you and I have talked about a lot of them. Yepes, Gorman, Walker, Burleson, they're all in the lineup today, among others. Tyler O'Neill playing in center field. What are you feeling about Tyler as he embarks on this 23 season? You kind of feel like, I hate using this term, it's somewhat overused, but he is an X factor, I think, for you, isn't he?
Well, as I stated, the reason we didn't go outside the organization to fill some what were perceived as needs is because we believe the talent is in our clubhouse. And I would accept or agree that, Tyler has to be the Tyler of 2021 and not the Tyler of 2022 for us to be, ultimately successful. But I'll tell you, he had a really good offseason. He worked really hard being in St. Louis. We've talked about him before this offseason about, his drive and really wanting to establish himself. And, I think he's prepared himself really well so far. And again, camp is, we're in game 2 of 5 more weeks of this. But, overall, I'd have to say, he seems like he's in a really good mindset.
Waino pitched 2 innings yesterday. Looked good from what I could tell. Jake Woodford had 2 scoreless frames. Cabrera, Naughton, Thompson, they all got a little action. Nail and Whitley. But I was really focused on 2 things. One, Contreras behind the plate with those pitchers, and also the pitch timer. What did you think of the first go-round of the pitch timer at this major league level?
Well, my fingers are crossed that yesterday is not an outlier. In other words, like, obviously you hope there are no infractions where you're getting a called strike or a called ball. You want it to work. And yesterday there were two. But overall, I mean, the pace of the game was exactly what you'd hoped for. And so, I kind of like throw the question more back to you sitting at home. Like, did you notice the difference? Because I did make my way around the ballpark yesterday, had a lot of different people visiting. And so, every place I went, of course, the questions were, what do you think of the clock? And then there were other people that didn't even realize there was a clock, but yet everybody was sort of impressed with, the quickness of play or the crispness of play. So, I got to say, like, I thought yesterday was like a home run when it comes to like what you hoped would be accomplished. And when you look at even, scores or more importantly, maybe times around the Grapefruit League and out in Arizona, it appears it's working. So, net, I thought yesterday was a tremendous success.
Yeah, I mean, if you put it back to me as a consumer yesterday, I did notice it, and I did think that it made a difference. I noticed that the hitters were in there quicker, the pitchers were coming quicker. I did notice it, and then I noticed that Bally was actually putting the clock on the lower right-hand part of the screen. So as a viewer, and I don't know if they'll do that all year or not, but you could sort of learn along and watch the different times, 20 seconds when there's a runner on, 15 seconds when the bases are empty, 30 between hitters, all that stuff. You could see that. I do notice that. And the point is not to make a shorter game necessarily, although that is part of the goal, but also more action. Right, Mo? I mean, when it comes to the shift and those rules too? Yeah,
so I think like the ball and play model, obviously this game is becoming a game of absolutes, right? You either hit a home run, swing and miss, that kind of thing. And so what you're hoping to do is with the shift, maybe create a few more base hits. I think like one thing we didn't really see come into play yesterday, so it'll be sort of fun to see how it sort of unfolds in camp is, the two pickoff moves to first or to any base really, but like, ultimately you should be increasing stolen bases or stolen base attempts. And so I think that also could be something that's exciting. But I do think like the fact is like when you look at yesterday's game, there wasn't just that sort of dead time of a pitcher just stepping off, slow pick to first. You know what I mean? Like, so I felt like those like sort of nuances were working. And, so yeah, when you think about like all the different rule changes, you got to remind yourself these are bigger bases. You got the two pickoffs to the bases. You have the pitch clocks, and you really need to say clocks because to your point, there are different times. And I do hope Bally's keeps that up because it's a nuance of the game that we all have to become more cognizant of. So anyway, I thought again it was fun to watch and. As I walked out of the ballpark yesterday, I was, heard a lot of positives on it. So, baseball fans hate change, but I would say overall, I think people are pretty excited.
Yeah, no doubt. And by the way, I mean, it is going to be applied. If anyone's wondering, in a bottom of the ninth situation or a postseason game or World Series, rules are the rules. I mean, it is going to be that they're not going to be lax on this necessarily.
Yeah, that's what you hope for, right? Yeah. I mean, I know there was a lot of sort of Twitter explosion on that Braves Red Sox game, but those are the rules. Like you can't change it just because it's the ninth inning. So yeah, I kind of thought that was funny, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it'll be an adjustment for sure. Look, I don't want to get anyone in trouble here and any fines or anything, but did you have any comment whatsoever on what happened at the end of that beginning of that game between Ollie Marmol and CB Bucknor?
Well, I'll say this, that obviously the integrity of baseball always has to be first and foremost, right? And what you don't want to have happen is where you feel there's grudges or biases on either side, right? I mean, you have to be careful on what you say about umpires and what they do and what they do for the game, but umpires themselves also have to be careful on their actions and how those are interpreted. So I'm hopeful that we can resolve all this and have it behind us as we continue our march through the Grapefruit League. But again, I think there's a way to solve this, and hopefully we can do that.
I appreciate that. When it comes to pitching, give us a little whip around the rotation, just kind of what you viewed here during workouts, and overall how you feel about, we're going to see them eventually in games, but Jack Flaherty, Jordan Montgomery, Steven Matz, and then today's starter, Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, and just throw Dakota in there for this conversation.
Yeah.
All those guys are are progressing well. We feel pretty good about where they all are, and so you're going to definitely see those guys in games within the week. And then even a guy like Connor Thomas has been throwing the ball really well. Matt Libator's been throwing the ball really well. So, right now I feel really confident about where those guys are. And, it's early. I'm knocking on wood. My fingers are crossed because, we're a long way to opening day at this point. But, I would say overall, I think the group feels really good about where those guys are at.
All right, looking forward to that. That happens today. Miles Michaelis is very close to that, and I know that John Mozeliak needs to get to the game, so we appreciate these 10 minutes very much. Thank you for being with us on KMOX as always. We got a game coming up at noon, 12:10 start.
All right, well, thank you, and look forward to seeing you next week. Be well.
Look forward to being there. There's John Mozeliak, President of Baseball Operations of the St. Louis Cardinals. It's 11:42. The Cardinals and the Marlins today here on KMOX. Quick break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention to other sports, including the game of golf. We have not forgotten about you, and an update on an event here in St. Louis. Plus, we'll take a look at the PGA Tour next.